Hello, it's Jamie Allen Bishop with Soul Heart Entertainment here, coming to you live for ToesDay. It is October 20th, 2020, and we're going to be talking about communication toe, which is the second toe, the closest toe to the big toe. And on the left, it means our internal communication, and our right, it means our external communication. So let's get started. One of the things that I want to tell you all about, by the way, I'm wearing my, festive Halloween outfit. I absolutely love Halloween, so it makes me so super happy. So why not? It's close enough, right? So today we'll talk about the second toe, which is what we call the pointer finger toe. It is the one that's closest to the big toe. And it's all about how our beliefs show up in our communication. So when we communicate with ourselves in a way that is clear and concise, we are communicating about the clear and concise information comes through, and it kind of speaks to the universe, and universe is able to respond very, very quickly when we're super clear and when there's no blocks within us. When we have blocks, that communication ends up, hi Tyler, thank you for joining. So glad you're here. Hi Lisa, thank you for joining. So glad you're here too. Okay, so we're talking about communication today. So that's our second toe, our pointer finger toe. And it's all about how the second toe, which is, we'll wait for that to sort of show up. There we go. That's this toe right here. So if you guys have any thoughts about that, definitely let me know. Hi Tiffany, hi Courtney, so glad you made it, yay. If you have any ideas that you want to know about toes, definitely type in some of your questions below and I'll get to them. So when it comes to communication and creativity and analytical behavior, that all shows up in our pointer finger toe. And when we're talking about the pointer finger toe, we're talking about the toe closest to our big toe. And what that means is when we are right in alignment with the universe, we get things really, really quickly. When we're not in alignment with universe, there's a disconnect. And so those beliefs can keep us from getting what we want right away. And so the idea behind toe reading is that we can look down and physically see where we are physically, or how it shows up physically, how we are mentally. So if we're in alignment, our toes will show up super aligned and really come straight forward, and there's really absolutely nothing to resist on it. One of the toes that I'll show you as a good example of what I mean are this set of toes. So we have the toes all showing up, coming straight forward. There's very few bumps. The edges of the toes are kind of, slightly round, but not too round. The toenails themselves are pretty consistent. They're pretty big. They're pretty juicy toes, but at the same time, they're not too overwhelmingly juicy. They don't bubble up, if you will. Whereas, let me look for another image right here. For example, let's look at how these baby toes kind of have that bubble up effect. The little baby toes are a little bit bubbling up. So bubbling up looks like holding back, or I kind of think, the image that always comes to mind is that Santa carrying the sack of toys. So there's stuff that's not being put down or let go of yet. So when your toes kind of have that bubbling up thing, just think very clearly about, depending on which toe it is, it will show up as kind of a bubbling up of your skin. So when we're talking about the communication toe, we're talking about toes that we definitely don't want them to bubble up, because what that signifies is that we're really holding back, or we're keeping our thoughts, feelings, and emotions and our creativity and our basically our genius, we're keeping it to ourselves. So what that might look like is if you kind of look at this left toe, you're looking at like the very tip kind of bubbles up. And when we're talking about that tip bubbling up, we're talking about how she maybe bubbles over with ideas, but never shares those ideas. Maybe she's a little bit intimidated. Maybe they're belief systems that her immediate support system do not recognize, or talents that she might have, intuitive talents that might scare people, or she thinks they might scare people. So she's really holding those back to herself, and that shows up in the bubbling of that toe. So I would, of course, welcome her to voice her opinions and really get clear with what it is that she wants. And you know, you can't dictate to the universe how you get what you want, but you can definitely place an order, and then just use all of that creative energy that we have in these amazing brains that we have to imagine what it looks like. So when you're in the happiness of what that looks like, it's amazing how the universe works. So I noticed a quick little question that I'll, could bubbling go away? Absolutely. I mean, truly, the second that bubbling, the second that you start voicing that opinion, so I'm talking about the pointer finger toe, on any of the toes, you know, the baby toes are kind of the notorious ones for having like a bubbling effect to them. And the baby toes mean on the right foot, it's prosperity and abundance, and on the left foot, it's about faith and trust. So when it comes to the baby toes, for example, a bubbling up on the right baby toe would probably mean that we're holding on to too much stuff, physical stuff. You know, think of Santa's bag. We're just carrying it with us everywhere we go. And that physical stuff can create a sort of a burden. It can also be centered on a belief system that is from a lack mentality. So if I don't have this stuff, I'm not worth anything, or this stuff is worth so much, I don't want to get rid of it because it might be valuable. Whether it's valuable to us or not, that's what we need to focus on. That's why Marie Kondo's The Joy method of keeping things, it's so important, because if it's not bringing us joy, why are we holding it? If we're holding it for the fiscal value, it's not worth anything. It's not worth anything to you. It's just a burden, if you will. And so that burden shows up as that toe kind of bubbling over. So the other question was a little bit obvious, but do toes change over time? So that answering the second question probably answered the first question, which is toes definitely change. It's absolutely fascinating to me how literally in session with people, when they have that like really true aha moment and it comes to their, you know, a new belief kind of just almost attacks them, if you will. It just completely takes over and washes away the old belief that was there. It's amazing how literally the toes change right then and there. It's truly miraculous. So like, for example, if we have a boil or some sort of protective padding, if you will, maybe it's a callus, maybe it's a blister of some kind, maybe it's just dry skin, that sort of thing. If we have something like that on any of our toes, depending on the toe it shows up on, it will keep us from, it will keep us feeling safer, but really it's a protective belief system. So when I think of protective belief systems, what I think about is we build a barrier, if you will, and you know, follow me for just a second. We build a barrier of protection. And when that protection grows and grows and grows and grows, it might keep us safe. And truly, it might keep us safe. But when we build up that protection, we're keeping stuff in, but we're also keeping a lot of stuff from the outside coming in. So let's say we want more health. Okay, health is a big deal right now in our universe, right? So let's say we want health to come to us. Let's say we want health to be our main focus. If we're building up a protective wall around us, and that protective wall is supposed to keep out bad health, what we're keeping in may not be good health. You know, think about if you're in an enclosed space for any length of time. Let's say we run out of cleaning supplies, but we can't leave that protective space in order to get more cleaning supplies, right? Eventually bacteria grows, mold grows, you know, other things that are just unhealthy for us. And so when we have this, follow me for a second, we're talking about a metaphor here. We have a protective barrier to keep other things out, and that protective barrier might feel really safe, but it's really not when it comes right down to it. So we have to be super careful about the walls of protection that we put up around us. So if you have dry skin or callousing or blisters, or you know, the notorious one is the ingrown toenails, right? Any kind of thing that's gonna like shield us in some sort of way. I think of a tortoise or a turtle of some kind. It has that kind of hard exterior. It's really hard to keep us truly safe when our belief systems are in alignment with the true safety that our bodies are capable of doing for us. Let's use the health one, you know, the health example again. Our bodies are brand new every 7 years. No kidding, no joke. You can look it up. Literally every single cell in our body rebirths itself and recreates itself over the course of every single 7 years. So every 7 years, our brain is completely new. Our skin is completely new. Our eyes are completely new. Our tummies, our entire body is brand spanking new. So it literally cannot be in dis-ease unless our thoughts, feelings, and emotions go there for us. Unless we're in that state of belief around, let's say, our health, okay? Obviously, it translates to all of the other exciting and, you know, scary sometimes ideas that we may have or that might come across us. The exciting thing is that a positive thought is thousands of times more powerful than a negative thought. So when that's why those affirmations are so exciting to people, and why people so focus on that. It's because in affirmations, we can kind of adjust that negative thinking, right? Now, does it completely help every single time? Probably not. It probably, you know, works temporarily, and then we kind of go back to that underlying belief system, which is our subconscious brain and our subconscious mind. And oftentimes that subconscious is programmed and it's on autopilot, right? So the way to change that is to really, truly, you have to work with somebody else. I don't believe, in my personal opinion, I don't believe that we are capable of making the dramatic changes that take us outside of what we know to be true unless somebody else is a guide for us. So just food for thought. But let's talk a little bit more about those pointer finger toes, about communication. So in this image, and it's not showing up, there it goes. Okay, so you can notice that there's a little bit of bubbling up on this one, on this toe, but not as much on this one. You can see that that tip isn't quite as bubbled up. The other thing that I notice about these second toes is that they're a little bit longer than that big toe, and more especially they're longer on the right foot than the left foot. Can you see that, guys? It's pretty exciting. trying to make sure that it shows up so that you can really see it. Here's some toes that that second finger toe is way longer on these feet. So this is her right foot, and that other one was also a right foot that we were looking at, where the second toe was longer. So one of the things that means is that person is going to be super, super analytical, and they're going to be really, really kind of somebody who gets caught in their head really, really easily. That can be a really great thing, but it can also be a thing that keeps us from stuff. For example, when we get caught in our heads, sometimes we're keeping the world outside of us out. We're keeping them away. Another way that keep getting stuck in our heads, we can, or at least for me anyway, I can only speak from a place of knowing, right? For me, it feels like getting caught on a hamster wheel. It feels like it feels like I have the same thoughts over and over and over, and it's really, really hard to jump off that hamster wheel. So when I see people with really, really long toes, that's kind of one of the first questions is, where do you feel comfort and where do you feel discomfort when it comes to communicating with others, when it comes to sharing your ideas and beliefs and opinions, and or getting caught in your head. If you're at a comfort level, guess what? Your toes will show up really, really straight. There won't be any wrinkles. The tips of your toenails will be super gentle in the curve of them. They won't be too curved, because too curved might mean that they beat around the bush too much. They won't ever really get to, they won't ever really get to the point. And you don't want it necessarily too flat, because too flat means that they might be really, they might be a little, the phrase cut off your nose to spite your face kind of thing is coming to mind. So they're going to be really sharp with the way that they were just very precise. The chopping block is showing up in my brain as the intuitive hit on that one. So they're just going to be very specific about what they believe and how they believe it and what that means to the future for them. Meaning, let's say you have a boss who has a really flat toe. They're going to be a kind of a all cards on the block communicator. Whereas if you have a boss who has a super rounded toe, they might beat around the bush too much, and there might not be clear enough communication to take some sort of project and run with it. So if you struggle with other people and or yourself with these kind of things, the flat padding on the toe or the rounded padding on the toe, one of the things that you can do is literally kind of massage the skin around your toe and help it to adjust to the shape that you desire. So the shape that is the best from my perspective, just in the sense that you always want to be open to receiving information. So you want a certain amount of flatness to that toe, that padding. But you also want a little bit of curve at the ends, and then you want it to come straight. You don't want it to bubble out. And I'm obviously making the toe image a lot bigger than it actually is on your foot. But when it bubbles out like that, that means you're keeping your communication or your ideas, beliefs to yourself. When it comes straight up or straight off of the toe, that means that you're being straight. You're being straight and narrow, right? You're being a straight shooter when it comes to communication or your creativity and or analytical thoughts and beliefs. When the tip of your toe curves a little bit, you're gonna be a little bit of a well-rounded thinker. You're gonna be somebody who is gentle. It's a more gentle style of communication. Whereas if you're super flat and maybe even square at that tip, it's going to be a little bit more, precise. There's going to be a very severe, if you will, way of looking at things. But that can also mean that you're super open to interpretation. You're super open to new ideas and new experiences. A pointed padding, if you've ever seen somebody with a pointed padding, that's going to be somebody that's very, very driven. And so depending on where that point shows up, if it's a little bit more to the left or right, or rather the big toe or the pinky toe, if that point is more toward the big toe, what you're looking at is somebody who thinks about and maybe communicates about the past very pointedly. If that point is a little bit more on the past side, or the future side, sorry, the baby toe side, it would be the future side. And that's going to be somebody who communicates really clearly about the future, okay? Now in the ideal scenario, you don't want to get stuck too much in the past or too much in the future. You want to be very focused on the present, the here and now, because truly our happiness and everything involving what we want and who we are only exists right now. Everything else is either gone or doesn't exist yet. The only thing that we can do with wanting to bring something to us, or wanting to get something, or wanting something gained in our life, is to really imagine what that looks like and how exciting it can be. You know, let's say you want a new car. You really, really want to imagine what specific kind of car. You know, if it only needs to have a working engine and a working air conditioning, no problem. That's great. Go ahead and imagine to yourself what kind of car has a working engine and a working air conditioning, right? Let's say you want, and you know, imagine yourself driving around in it. Imagine maybe when the window's down, maybe your hair is flowing, maybe the radio works really well, or maybe it's, you know, super, super modern and it has all of the smart features. So it might have GPS already built into it, or you can download apps into it, or whatever it looks like to you. In order to bring that car energetically closer to you in the here and now, right here, right now, you have to be in a state of joy about it. If you're worried too much about how much it costs, or if you're worried too much about what might happen if you have this car, or you know what, that's all in the future. It doesn't exist. Stop worrying about it. Stop thinking about it. Stop considering what could be, right? The past stuff is kind of all about the what should have been, right? So all those things that we can't change, we can't fix, we can learn from them and we can move forward. Now, in learning from them, that's the piece of the puzzle that you when lines show up on the toes, I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but not too much. So I'll look, you can see on this one, okay, on right there on that communication toe, the lines on the toe show up. Those lines are lines that have been a bump in the road, if you will. In toe reading, the start of the toe, so where the toe meets the foot, that is where our lifetime starts, if you will. At the tip of the toe, that's right here, right now, in our world, in this time, at this moment. Now, not to get too much into quantum ideas here, but they kind of relate to how the toes change and what that looks like for a toe reading. When toes change, it's because we've made a quantum leap in our belief systems. And so that quantum leap can be, it's really known as that aha moment, right? It's known as that moment in time where we've completely stopped believing what we've been brought up to believe, or what we've told ourselves for so many years, and all of a sudden you no longer believe it, and it truly is completely out of your system and out of your body. It's no longer serving you or whatever. All of that ends up being a situation where if there's a bump in the road, that's the timeline of where that thing is showing up in your life. Oftentimes when I touch the, when I'm doing a toe reading on somebody, when I touch that line on somebody, a memory will sometimes flash, or something will be brought to mind, and we kind of follow it down the rabbit hole of where it's showing up for them. But a lot of the time it just takes a little bit of forgiveness work, because when we go through those deep valleys in life, or when we experience things that are really unsettling or unpleasant, or you rock our world, let's be honest, those things can rock our world, the world as we know it, right? It takes forgiveness. Now it takes forgiveness of lots. It takes forgiveness of the other person for creating that experience. It takes forgiveness of yourself for holding on to it. And it takes a little bit of forgiveness of letting go of it, of not worrying about it anymore and not taking it with you forward. That's kind of one of those metaphysical things in Santa's bag that we carry with us when we have too much padding on our toes, is we're carrying with us these thoughts and beliefs that no longer serve us. So I invite you to rub your toes, give yourself a little bit of personal care therapy on your toes and feet. Maybe a little essential oil in it. Maybe it's a scent that you really, really love. And just allow your feet to soak. Allow your body to purge toxins, to get rid of heavy metals, to feel healthy, to allow yourself just the opportunity to do some self-care is what it comes down to. So rub those toes, get those toenails, keep them nice and trim. What else? Oh, jewelry. One quick little thing about jewelry. When we have jewelry on our toes, a lot of times, depending on the toe, a lot of times it gets put on that pointer finger toe, right? This is all about emphasizing. The same goes with tattoos, or any kind of, if you draw on your skin. I know as a teenager, I was always drawing on my skin. So when we have anything that emphasizes one toe over another, we are looking at the idea that that's something that we want to emphasize in our lives. That's something that we want to treat as a little bit special in how it shows up in our world. So if you have jewelry or a tattoo or some sort of other marking on your pointer finger toe, which is the toe closest to the big toe, what you're talking about is an emphasis on communication, creativity, or analytical mind and your beliefs therein. And so think about when you put that emphasis on whatever it is. So when you put the piece of jewelry on, maybe what was going on in your life at the time. Maybe you were just starting to come into being able to verbally communicate a little bit better. Maybe something really dramatic happened, and this was something, maybe a tattoo, like, I know a lot of people actually who end up with tattoos just as a spark reminder of somebody who's died that they know. And oftentimes it's about the communication and or the big picture. So it shows up somewhere right in those top two pieces, right? The big toe or the communication toe, the second toe. So if that's the case, it's just something that you're going to want to know why you're focused on it. If the focus is for the greater good of who you are and what you're about, keep it on, go for it. Don't hold back. Do it, do it, do it. Communicate, be creative, do whatever makes you feel truly happy. If it's holding you back, or if your skin is bubbling around it, or if it's maybe choking, it can create a true choking effect on your body. It can create challenges with your throat. It can cause a little bit of anxiety around your throat chakra. And so, maybe closing down, maybe not communicating properly. Maybe you tell somebody one thing and they end up doing another because the energy just isn't flowing quite right in how and what and why you want something done a certain way. So in that particular case, I would definitely welcome you to consider removing whatever it is that emphasized what, that particular situation. Usually it's jewelry. Tattoos don't have a tendency to choke us out, do they? So, or you can just loosen the piece of jewelry. Maybe it's 10 COVID pounds ago and it's just gotten a little bit too tight. So definitely consider loosening it and making sure that it fits really easily and that it can move on your toe, because that's super, super important. Anyway, wishing you great communication, wonderful creativity, and my lovely witchy hat for the Halloween holiday coming up. Super, super, super excited. Catch me next Tuesday for ToesDay at 6 p.m. from about 6 to 6:30. Love the questions in advance, and thank you for being here. I'll catch you next week on Soul Heart Entertainment. Jamie Allen Bishop signing off. Bye for now.